Right guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video what I'm going to show you how to do is bleed your brakes on flat mount calipers with road shift levers. So we'll go ahead and we'll get into it. Right, so for bleeding wise, what you need is, obviously you've got the funnel like so with a lid that goes on it. Now you've got the stopper inside, will stop the fluid coming out. Goes in there like that. Now for the road shifters you need the adapter like so, what then screws onto there and obviously screws into your lever. So that's the adapter. Then you've got your syringe there, as you can see, with a piece of hose, plastic hose, a clear hose attached like that. Then obviously to undo the bleed, point itself is 7mm spanner like so. And then you need something to catch the fluid in. Either you can get a bag and attach it to the hose, or you can just use a bottle like so. I just use a homemade little bottle, a piece of wire on it to hang it on, the length of hose, and the hose goes right into the bottom of the bottle there, as you can see. So that's just a homemade piece you can make up yourself with a just drill a hole in the lid like that to accept the hose. So that's the component parts of the bleed, of what you need to carry out the bleed. And obviously what you need is the Shimano mineral oil hydraulic there fluid, so some of that as well, and obviously some rag or some paper to wipe off after you finished doing the bleeding. Right, so the first step is you want to get your lever parallel with the ground, obviously, so as this area on the top here is flat. And then you can just remove with a 2mm hex head there, just undo and remove the bleed port cover there. Just remove that, and then you can go ahead and get your bleed funnel. Right, so we got the road adapter there with a washer on it there, black O-ring. So you want to screw that in where you just removed the cover from. Just screw that in by hand there and pinch it up by hand, and then you can go ahead and get your funnel and screw that into the adapter on top like so. Just pinch it up by hand, that's all you got to do. And you can go ahead and pull the plunger out the middle there. Right, so at the caliper end here, obviously you've got the bleed nipple there. Like I say, it's a 7mm. So you can go ahead and remove the dust cover off. You can take that off completely, just so the hose fits on there better without that on. So put that safe somewhere. Then what you want is a 7mm, like I said, and that will undo it. So you can leave that on there for the time being, like so. Right, so the next step is get your mineral oil for the brakes. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the syringe, and then we're going to suck up some fluid into the syringe. I'm going to fill it with fluid. So I'll get the syringe there, and we'll pull up some fluid like so. So we've got a syringe full, as you can see. Right, so once you've got your syringe full of fluid there, you can just go ahead and crack open the bleed nipple there. So once you crack that undone, then you can go ahead and put your hose over it like so. Once you've got your hose over there, it's on on square, so as when you push the fluid in, it's not going to come out everywhere. You can go ahead and just slowly push the fluid up into the funnel on the top of the handlebar. So obviously just push it through very slowly. Keep your eye on the bleed funnel up the top. You'll see a load of air bubbles coming out of it, and then the fluid eventually. So just slowly push it in. Just keep your eye on the funnel, so obviously it'll be filling up slowly at this point. So we'll try and get most of it put in. You should fill the funnel. So you do it just very slowly, pushing it through. This is just to remove the bulk of the air. So once you've got 3/4 of the funnel full, you want to stop, because you don't want to introduce any more air. At the minute that's all fluid in there, there's no air in it. So you don't want to reduce any more until we've got about a little bit left, 1/4 in the funnel there. About 1/4 left. Then we'll just go ahead and nip that back up, so as you don't put any more air back into the system. So once that's nipped up, you can just go ahead and remove your funnel from it, sorry, your hose. Right, so here's the funnel end. That's how much we just put up through the hose with the syringe. So what I'll do with that one is I'll remove nearly all of it, not so it's bone dry, just leave a little bit in the bottom, just so as it's not actually emptied the whole thing out. Just suck some of that out with the syringe, and I'll get rid of that, dispose of the that mineral oil, because if you look in there, you could just have little black specks in there, just from the inside of the hose, or the first, you know, because this is a fresh bleed the first time it's been done. So I'll discard that one. Right, so what I'll use is just one of these suckers there. Instead of using your syringe, you can just get one of these. They're cheap enough to get hold of, and just pull some of the oil out with that. It's pipette. And then all you do is with that, I'll just get an old jam jar and put it in an old jam jar. What you're going to get rid of, what you're not keeping, screw it into an old jam jar. So get rid of that again. Like I said, just get rid of the majority of the fluid. If you're not keeping it, put it into an old jam jar to be disposed of. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I've put the bike at a more aggressive angle, like you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to repeat that process again, using the syringe and slowly putting fluid up through, just to try and eradicate the air that gets trapped anywhere. So if you got it at more of an angle, obviously if there was an airlock in the reservoir in the lever, then you could get rid of that airlock there by doing this, or if it in the caliper even, just by putting it in a more aggressive angle. Obviously it helps to get rid of it. Just, you know, some people do it, some people don't. I'm just going to do it again, just so as when we get onto the actual bleeding itself, you know that a lot of the air's been got rid of in one go. So I've got the bike at an angle like so. Right, so when doing it for the second time, make sure that when you put the hose onto the bleed nipple, that there's no air in the hose itself. So it's all fluid when you go put it on to the bleed nipple before you start pumping the syringe again. Otherwise you'll just be introducing air back into it. So make sure there's no air in the hose itself. Right, so there's the second lot from the syringe put through. Obviously you've got to stop before you introduce any air back in, so it's all fluid when you lock up the spanner, so you don't want any fluid getting back in there. So you can remove the spanner, sorry, the hose there. I've already tightened that up. And what you can do is, the second time when you're pushing that fluid up through, obviously you can see the amount that I've pushed up through. When you're doing that, obviously you're doing it very, very slowly. So you can get the end of a screwdriver and just tap the body of the caliper gently with a screwdriver. You can tap the hose here, there. You can flick the hose round up there as well, just in case there's any air trapped in it. You can just flick the hose, trying to get rid of any air that might be trapped anywhere. You can tap the caliper, you can tap the caliper itself, you can tap the hose there at the same time. I say you're pushing it in so slowly, you've got the time to tap that. Like I say, tap the hose up here while that's going in, because you're doing it at such a slow rate. So once that's done, that's locked up there. Like I said before, you can come up to the other end there. You can just stick that back in the middle for the time being, and then you can just get that fluid again and get rid of that. Just suck that out with the stopper in place, just to get rid of it. And then what we'll do is we'll bleed it through again from this end with clean fluid in there. Right, so I've got the bike level back up again a bit more, so as the top of this is level again, so the fluid's level. So in other words, just put some fluid in there like so. I've still got the stopper in the middle at the moment. Just fill it up at 3/4 full, and then you come down to the caliper end. Obviously I've got the bleed block in place, the yellow block there, no pads in it or anything. This is the first time it's ever been bled, so it's a completely dry system. And then what I'll do is, if you've got a bag, then you can use a bag with a rubber band around it to hold the bag onto the hose. I've just got this bottle like so. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some fluid in this bottle at the bottom there, just so the hose is covered, so it's just about 1/4 full in the bottle before I go ahead and attach it onto the bleed nipple. Right, so like I said, we've got the bottle attached there. Just got a piece of wire going over the axle there, just to hold it, just in case it falls, and keep it flush onto the bleed nipple there. Got the spanner in place, and obviously like I said, we've got the funnel at the top, 3/4 full with fluid. So now I'll just go ahead and pop the stopper out the middle like so, and then what we want to do is obviously pump the lever, so obviously pull the lever back towards the handlebar, and at the same time as you're doing that, undo the bleed nipple at the same time, so undo the spanner at the same time as you pull the lever back to the bar. So as you pull the lever in, undo it, and then when it goes in, then lock the bleed nipple back up, so lock the nipple back up again, and then release the lever. So just to recap on that, pull the lever towards the bar and undo the bleed nipple at the same time. When it's back in as though you're braking, then lock the bleed nipple back up again, and then you can let go when the bleed nipple's locked back up, and just keep repeating that process again and again. Now you can change the angle of the bike slightly if you want to. You can do 5 or 6 pumps or whatever and lock it up like I just said, and then after that change the angle of the bike when the fluids drop down a bit, so you can tip the bike down again. You can just angle the bike different angles. If you're not using a stand to do it with, and you've got the bars wrapped up or say, and you're just re-bleeding it and all, and your bars are wrapped up so you can't change the angle of the lever just by undoing the clamp and moving the lever, then you can just chop the back wheel up off the ground when you've got it leaning up against the wall, if you haven't got a stand, that is. So you can just chop the back wheel up so it angles the bike down, so as it's, if you can't undo the lever, that is, or you can undo the lever and move it up and down on the drop if you want to. But if you've got a stand that's adjustable, then you can just move the whole frame up or down. So you can do 5 or 6 pumps like that, then you can move it slightly, do another 5 or 6, you know, when the fluids come down a little bit, but never allow it to run out of fluid at any time. Otherwise you'll just be introducing air back into the system again, which is, you know, defeating the object. So by moving the bike at an angles, then all you're trying to do is eradicate if you've got any air trapped in the reservoir, like I said earlier. So that's what it's to do. But I say go and do a few pumps, so I'll do that now. So I've done about 3 pumps, and as you can see there inside the hose, you can see the little air bubbles there going back in, down into the jar already. So you just have to keep at it and eradicate the bubbles. Right, so what I've done is, that was 3/4 full, so I've emptied that down just when the bike was level. Now I've angled the bike. Obviously I got rid of most of the air bubbles, but now I angled the bike down like so, and then I'm going to do a load more repeats of locking the bleed nipple, you know, pushing the lever, whilst just flick the hoses. Then you can tap the caliper. Like I said, you can tap the side of the caliper even if you want to, just to get rid of, because sometimes you put it on an angle like so, and then suddenly you'll get a load more air coming out, you'll notice, out into the hose down the bottom there on the caliper when you're doing it at an angle. So it's better to angle it, like I said, then it gets rid of, you know, you got rid of all the air out of it. Right, so with the bike still angled like so, we managed to eliminate a lot more air out of the system. So now we've actually got a lever that's functioning properly. So we just got the bung back in the middle there of the fluid of the reservoir. And as you can see, I've put that much more fluid through it, so about another almost another syringe full with the bike at an angle. That seems to have eliminated the air, and the lever's actually feeling better. So like I say, it's beneficial to angle the bike at various angles. It helps just to get rid of the fluid, whilst also, like I said, flicking the hoses and that. So that's the front brake feeling good now. So I can go ahead and remove the jar off the end there with the hose. Right, so I've removed the catch bottle off the caliper, and we've nipped the caliper bleed nipple back up, obviously stop any fluid coming out. Now what I've done is I've levelled the bike back up again, so as we can remove the funnel off this end, which we'll go ahead and do now. Right, so we can go ahead and remove the bleed funnel from the bike. Obviously when you remove it, just literally remove it off of the lever. Don't wipe away any excess that might be there. Literally just remove that out of the way. Obviously you've got your stopper in, so no fluid can come out. And then get your stop like so, your cover with the O-ring in place, and then put that back on and screw it in. Make sure you don't cross thread it or anything. Make sure it's going in straight. And literally all you do with these is, because it's a 2mm, that's all it is, you just literally, as soon as it stops moving, just give it a touch more, and that's all you do. Literally the torque setting on this is like 0.5 of a Newton meter, so it's absolutely nothing. Otherwise you could end up damaging it. So just literally nip it up, and if it's not leaking, then that's it. Right, so that's the front brake caliper there and lever bled. Now we move on to the rear. Now it's the same process for the rear, except that the hose is a lot longer, so you're more likely to get air trapped in the hose because it's a longer run. And if it's internal cable routed for the hose, if it's inside the frame, then it's harder to tap the hose to get rid of the air, so it just may take longer to bleed. But obviously the same process, you can change the angle of the bike. But obviously you just start off with the syringe on the caliper end and then slowly push the fluid through, same as the front, same process, except like I said, it's a longer hose run, so it may take longer for you to bleed the air out properly out of the system. Right, so we're on to the rear brake. Like I said, Same principle as the front. As you can see the air in there. Now I've already emptied the bottle once. We've still got air coming through. Like I said, you can get a screwdriver, end of a screwdriver like so. You can tap the caliper, you can tap the hose, what you can see of the hose. Obviously you can flick this with your hand this end, and you can tap on the side of the lever. Just help to get rid of any unwanted bubbles in there. Say I've got the bike at an angle, then all I'll do is level the bike up, and I'll do it again. Say just remember always to keep your fluid topped up, keep an eye on that. Don't let the fluid get low in there at all times. And obviously it might take 2 or 3 bottlefuls you might put through. It just depends how it goes. You've got to keep going until you get rid of the air, and in a minute there's still air in there. You see the bubbles. So you just have to keep going, angling the bike, like I said, different angles, and just keep persevering with it. Right, so that's the rear brake bled now. So say you should have a nice solid feeling brake, like that. About that much movement I've got in these. So nice feeling brake straight away. But that doesn't mean they stay like that. Obviously what you've got to do is, the only way to test it properly is go out for a ride. The first ride, just do a short ride around your local block, and then check the brakes again and make sure they don't need bleeding again. You may have to re-bleed them after you've ridden the bike. That's the thing. So don't take it for granted that they feel alright now, because after you've ridden it you may have to do a re-bleed on them. But like I say, what you want to do is just go ahead and check for any leaks anywhere. So once you've dried off the connections where the hoses are, just make sure that you haven't got any leaks anywhere on the bike. Just the same with the calipers down on the caliper ends, and make sure you, after you've done it, refit your dust covers back on, and just check for any leaks anywhere, because obviously that'll be making a spongy feeling lever if you've got a little leak somewhere. So it's best to check it over and make sure you haven't got any leaks on the caliper where you've done the hoses or anything, if you've fitting it for the first time. Right, so obviously we've just done the bleed, so we haven't got the pads installed, because obviously you don't want to spill any fluid on them, just in case. So it's better to have the bleed block in there instead of pads and ruining them with mineral oil if you spill any on there. So it's time to put the pads in. Right, so that's the steps complete there. Obviously it's straightforward enough to do, just got to take your time over it until you get make sure you've got all the air out of the system. You've got a nice feeling brake levers. So just make sure you check for leaks afterwards and everything. Give it a ride around the block like I said, just make sure, if you're not happy with it, re-bleed it. Just take your time with it, basically angle the bike, just try and remove as much air as you can out of the system. I say it's just a case of following the steps, and you should be alright. But anyway, I hope you liked the video. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Until next video, ride safe and I'll see you then.